like throwing a curveball at the beginning. For both of you, you've done so many things in your careers. What's the first, if someone has never seen anything that you've done before, what is the first thing you'd like them watching and why?
I think season 5 of The Crown.
Very good answer. That'll be $50. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think The Crown. You know, I think obviously it's foremost in my mind. I think there's I think it's a wonderful show, and there's a lot less of it to watch than The Wire. So I'd start with The Crown.
He's covered the Crown, so I'm going to say I made a TV show that not enough people watched called Manhattan, which was about the Manhattan Project. And please all spend your money, go and watch it. It's informative and brilliant and beautifully written and beautifully shot.
What's it on?
I think you can buy it on Amazon. It was originally on WGN America.
I'm actually I don't mean to talk about another show. I watched every episode of Manhattan.
I love you for that.
And it was spectacular. I believe Sam Shaw was the showrunner. And I loved it. It's a fantastic show.
But
really.
We're getting very restless people from Netflix here. Can we bring it back to The Crown now, please?
100%. One of the things about The Crown is that every aspect of the show is just spectacular, from the production design to everything, you know. And so I'm curious for both of you, what is it like actually behind the scenes making the show when you're working with just such talented people in every department?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like settling it into the back of one of those amazing 1990s Bentleys that I get to drive around in occasionally on this show. I mean, it's very like that. You get, you feel incredibly supported and surrounded by extreme prosperity.
It's like being kidnapped by a very posh circus. You sort of get taken in a car and the crunch of gravel tells you you've arrived at a stately home, and then there's a big top where you go in and come out looking like a member of the royal family. It's lovely.
I'm curious for both of you, if you have a new appreciation or look at the royal family after making the show and sort of inhabiting these characters, has it changed your opinion or perception? You know what I mean about the royal family?
Yeah, I mean, many things have changed. I didn't really think about Charles much before, and one of the things is Josh O'Connor was very good at identifying the fiddling that Charles does. He's always fiddling with his clothes. Whenever he gets out the car, he's always doing this. And I noticed wearing those clothes that if you want to look immaculate, you have to fiddle the whole time. Check that your cuffs are like here, that your tie is right up here, that your little handkerchief is, poking out enough. And so actually what appeared to be nervous tics I discovered are the only way that you can do as he does, which is look immaculate at all times. So that was one small thing. Another thing I noticed and surprised me was how many people he's met, and how that very much defines his idea of the modern monarchy, that his role is to draw attention to the needs of people, ordinary people, of which he's met more than probably anyone who's ever lived, except the Queen.
I think my discovery was particularly in the 90s that any photograph we have of Camilla was taken by a man hidden in a bush who was probably trespassing on her property. And if she looked hatchet-faced and miserable, that's because she either didn't know she was being photographed in the most unhappy time of her life, or she just realized there was a man in a bush with a camera taking a picture of her. And what's been wonderful is to see her emerge from that without being vindictive, without ever having Camilla her story or some version of events to put the record straight. And she's just emerged as a warm and forgiving person who now winks at the press who so tormented her.
Yeah, it's for people that in America, I don't think they realize how brutal the British press can be. It's a different level over there.
Yeah, they're horrible.
God bless them. We love them. Yes, thanks, guys.
No, I mean, it's crazy. Look, before I run out of time with you, I know you guys are filming the final season, and I'm just curious, how has that been going? And because it's the end of this great series.
Yeah, well, it's extraordinary because, of course, it comes at the time after the Queen's death when I suppose the Crown has attracted more criticism than probably before. It's also the most tumultuous season in many ways, and it's also covers the time that most people remember since the start of the show, and so it's a very exciting and daunting time to be doing this material, because you're aware of the responsibility. These are people who are still alive, and that's an immense responsibility.
But also, Netflix is and Peter Morgan are just so at the top of their game now. You've got these extraordinary episodes like in season 5, where you can have the luxury of an episode about the Romanovs or an episode just about divorce. It's much more a philosophical show than just a sort of chronological retelling. Can I steal 5 minutes of your time, or 2 seconds of your time, to say that today is World Neuroendocrine Cancer Awareness Day, and I've had neuroendocrine cancer, and Steve Jobs and Aretha Franklin died of it, and people need to be more aware, because incidence has increased by 371% since the 90s.
Is that true?
Yes.
Do you think it's
371% more common in the 2020s than it was in the 1990s, mostly because of now we know how to diagnose it.
I was going to ask you if it's because people can diagnose it, or is it something in the air, or like,
It took them 4 years to diagnose me.
Jesus, I'm so sorry, because
I'm fine. I'm here, but just if you could put a word in for pancreatic, for neuroendocrine cancer awareness, I'd be very grateful.
I can absolutely do that. And I'd be happy to do that, actually.
Thank you.
My last thing for you, and I just want to ask about Peter Morgan, because he's such a talented writer. And I'm just curious what it's like working with someone who clearly is so gifted with his ability on the page.
Yeah, what's brilliant about the way he writes this is that people have said, why have you got, for example, the tampon gate scene in? And he brings it always back to everything has an impact on the Crown, how that conversation, and it's being taped and released to the press, impacted the Crown. So every time there is something that you question as why is this there, just look and think about how that had an impact on the monarchy. And it always will be under an underlying truth that it had an impact on the monarchy in this country.
2 things, I think. One, I was just very surprised how much you had an input, that you could change his mind. You could have a discussion about lines and approaches, which you very much listened to. And the second thing, I think what's his genius is his ability to find the story, the interesting story. And he encapsulated the other day in a press conference when he said about the marriage of Charles and Diana, that what interested him was it was the biggest wedding of all time, the most famous wedding probably of all time, that watched by more people than ever. And therefore this great, great fairy tale, love fairy tale, which ended in a divorce court in London where they were couple 32 or 33. And I instantly saw, you instantly see the story there. You see the whole arc and what's interesting about it. And that's his genius, I think, is distilling it down to around this whole mass of events. That for him was the interesting thing. And you could see why he's so good at coming up with what's interesting in the Crown.
Yeah, that's a great episode, that divorce thing. Anyway, listen, congrats on the show. Thank you so much for your time. Good luck with the rest of your speed dating.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.